now let's talk about series. Now what is a series? Sequence was a list of numbers, but series is when we take a sequence and instead of listing the numbers, we are adding the numbers together. And I'm working with the same example. So we started out with 4, 7, 10. And then if we write few values at the end, we have 40, 43, 46 if we end at the 15th value we were looking at in the previous video. Now, how do we handle a situation like this when we are supposed to add all values? Now in this case we know that there's 15 of them, so it's not impossible to calculate each of them separately and just add them up. But imagine that there would be 150 values instead. So then you definitely don't want to calculate each of them separately. But there is a way to do that, and it's actually quite nice. We start by looking at the first and the last value together. We only add those two numbers together. Then we do the same with the second and the second last value. And what you should notice is that the sum of the first and the last is the same as the second and the second last. Now why is that? Well, because it was arithmetic, so when we went for the first to the second value we have added 3. But on the other end we did the opposite. We went from the last to the second last. So we are actually making the value the same, common difference smaller. So on one end we are adding 3 and on the other we are taking out 3. So that is why the total remains the same. And it will keep on remaining the same if we take the third and the third last and so forth. Now, we know when we start pairing the values up, the sum is always 50. How many times do we do that? Well, we know the total number of values, so because we take two numbers at the same time, so we have half the number of the pairs as we do the original numbers. So we need to multiply this as many times as we have pairs in our series. Let's have a look. So we need to know only the first and the last, and then multiply with how many pairs we have. In this case that we are looking at, the sum of the first and the last is known, it's 50. And what might be a bit of a surprise, but it does work even in a case where the number is an odd number. If you're skeptical, I want you to try and calculate all the values in the sequence and find the middle one, because there will be one middle one without a pair, and that pair will be 25. Half of the sum of the first and the last. I'll let you work on that at your own time. But as a summary, whenever we have series, so we are adding all the numbers. So adding the first and the last, and then the sum is multiplied by how many pairs do we have, so number of values divided by 2. This will work always in arithmetic series.